The legendary American actor and martial artist Chuck Norris had a difficult time handling the horrific disasters in his life. From childhood into adulthood, Chuck experienced the anguish of losing loved ones, and that feeling stayed with him for 8 decades. He would never forget that. Keep watching this video to witness personally Chuck Norris's horrible life story and how he overcome it all. Now let's get going. Chuck Norris has stated that his background is influenced by his mixed heritage, which includes both Irish and Cherokee ancestry. It's interesting to note that he was given the moniker Chuck after the pastor his father served, Carlos Berry. Chuck was the oldest of 3 brothers in his family. Wand and Aaron were his younger siblings. The second brother, Wand Norris, made the fatal forecast that he would not survive to be 27 years old. Sadly, Wand's death in 1970, just a few months after Chuck Norris's younger brother Aaron was born, turned this prophecy into a terrible reality. In World War II, Ray Norris, their father, was enlisted. The turbulent time in Chuck Norris's life and the life of his family was described in depth in his memoir, Against All Odds, My Story. During this period, their family got one of the most upsetting notifications one could imagine. Ray Norris was reported missing in action, MIA. The family must have been in a condition of uncertainty and concern after receiving this news, which must have been quite distressing. It was clear that Ray had been severely damaged by his experiences when he finally came home from the war. He resorted to drinking as a coping mechanism, which made his issues worse. Chuck Norris described in graphic detail the terrifying events that took place in their home at this time. He told stories of his father's violent, alcohol-fueled outbursts at his mother, including one in which he attempted to seize the meager $5 she had laid aside for meals. It was clear that Ray gets enraged about seemingly insignificant things when he was drunk. For instance, when he was hungover, the sound of running water would cause him to fall into an angry rage, during which he would make threats and profanities. Chuck and Wand would hide in their bedroom during these turbulent moments as their mother tried to soothe their father. Chuck Norris also considered how few role models he had as a child. Though he could only afford to watch them on days when he had extra money to spare, he said that the cowboys he watched on the big screen acted as his role models. He saw role models and motivation in these people. Chuck Norris recognized his mother's fortitude and resiliency in handling the trying conditions, but he also talked about the immense difficulty of having a father caught in a destructive cycle of abuse, drinking, and unfulfilled regrets. He characterized his father as a horrible example to follow, someone he did not want to imitate, and a negative role model. In Against All Odds, My Story, his open memoir, Chuck Norris explored the deep traumas and challenges his family endured as a result of his father's alcoholism. He shared his unwavering optimism that his father would overcome his drinking addiction at some point, but he also acknowledged the sad fact that this desire was ultimately futile. Norris described a crucial event that occurred during their family's relocation from Arizona to Oklahoma, a night that revealed the depths of his father's alcoholism. Due to alcohol intoxication, his father made a careless and hazardous choice. He got drunk, packed the family into the car, and drove off, announcing that the family would be going back to Arizona. Chuck Norris related how dangerous it was to watch his father swerving wildly across the road while he tried to keep the car under control. His mother was sobbing uncontrollably out of terror and pleading with his father to stop before he injured someone else on the road or before their lives were in danger. Sadly, it took a few years until the most terrible tragedy happened. Following the birth of Aaron, the youngest brother of Chuck Norris, their father, who was still intoxicated, drove a car into a woman, killing her. Due to this incident, his father was found guilty and given a work camp sentence. Chuck and his family continued to hold out hope that their father's sobriety could be sparked by his time in the work camp, even in the face of this devastating blow. But this optimism turned out to be misplaced. Chuck Norris lamented that his father quickly reverted to his harmful drinking habits after being released from the work camp. He described how his father started acting more violently and abusively at home, especially with his mother. Chuck described a terrifying moment when he stepped between his parents, wielding a hammer in a desperate attempt to defend them. after he felt forced to step in during a violent altercation between them. Luckily, his father wasn't very serious about the threat because he was drunk. Chuck Norris and his family realized at this point that they had no choice but to permanently leave their home. This difficult choice, which sought a safer and more stable environment away from the instability that had plagued their family for years, represented a turning point in their lives as they attempted to break free from the spiraling cycle of alcoholism and abuse. In addition, Chuck Norris published a book titled Black Belt Patriotism: How to Reawaken America, in which he outlined his ideas for resolving perceived problems facing the nation. It's crucial to remember, though, that throughout his life, his undying loyalty to his country wasn't always evident. Norris told a moving and heartbreaking story of his younger brother, Wieland, who sadly died in the Vietnam War during an appearance on the Dick Cavett Show. During a mission, Wieland was leading a patrol as the point man when he discovered an important discovery. When he saw that their unit was inadvertently into a Viet Cong ambush, he fearlessly tried to alert his comrades. Sadly, Wand was shot and killed while performing her duties. Chuck Norris continued by saying that one of the other soldiers who had witnessed the deadly occurrence told them about Wand's bravery. This soldier made sure Norris's family knew that Wieland had given his life to warn his fellow soldiers about the impending danger by attending Wand's burial. Chuck Norris gave a contemplative answer when Dick Cavett questioned him about whether the loss of his brother was made worse by the war's eventual outcome in Vietnam. He said that he was fully in favor of the United States' involvement in the battle when it initially started, highlighting his intense sense of ultra-patriotism. But after some thought, Norris realized that his perception of the Vietnam War was more nuanced. He stated his opinion that as time went on, the war showed itself to be more motivated by commercial goals than by a strong devotion to core values. In his biography, Against All Odds: The Story of My Life, Chuck Norris discussed the significant effect of his first marriage ending in divorce. "My story," he wrote, describing the divorce as a total knockout, a turning point in his life that not only caused him to experience mental anguish, but also forced him to adopt a completely different lifestyle. He had grown up with the protection and nurture that strong, amazing women had given him, and the divorce upset this ingrained sense of safety and stability. But when he got a letter in the mail from a woman named Diana Dioli, his life changed drastically. Diana wrote to Chuck Norris to let him know that she was his daughter. The two had briefly interacted when Chuck was in the military thanks to Johanna, Diana's mother. Chuck made it clear that at no point during their relationship had he told Johanna he was married. At one point, Johanna told her daughter not to contact Chuck Norris because she thought it would ruin his marriage. But after hearing about Chuck's divorce, Diana made the decision to get in touch. Chuck Norris was instantly convinced that Diana was his daughter, and he struggled with the repercussions of his actions. Extramarital affairs were obviously against moral principles, as his faith had taught him, and he felt a great deal of sorrow and sin for not being there for his daughter and her mother. Chuck remembered contacting Johanna and pleading with her for forgiveness. Even though he eventually came to see his extended family as a blessing, he admitted that he will always be saddened by the years he missed out on spending with his daughter and her mother. In Against All Odds: My Story, his memoir, Chuck Norris also revealed a fascinating part of his life pertaining to his political activity and connection with Lee Atwater. Renowned American political analyst Atwater saw in Norris a conservative Republican who could improve George H.W. Bush's image by lending a tough guy appeal to his campaign. Recognizing the political asset that Norris may be, he was recruited by Atwater to make multiple appearances in support of Bush's campaign. This collaboration with Atwater produced a genuine friendship between the two, as well as Atwater's active participation in politics, as Chuck Norris detailed in his memoir. Prior to his partnership with Chuck Norris, Lee Atwater had a lengthy and illustrious career in politics. He gained notoriety for his pivotal role in winning Ronald Reagan's presidential nomination. But Atwater's life tragically changed when he died in 1991 at the young age of 40. After collapsing during a speech, it was discovered that he had an incurable brain tumor, which ultimately caused his premature death. Atwater's health took a serious turn in the weeks before his death, and the effects of his disease drastically altered his look. In his memoir, Chuck Norris disclosed that, during this difficult period, he was among the fortunate few granted permission to visit Atwater. Atwater's health had gotten so bad that he could barely speak when he paid him a visit. Chuck Norris related the touching visit in which he gave Atwater a forehead kiss before leaving his hospital room, overcome with emotion. He remembered the flood of feelings he felt, the inability to control his tears. Chuck noted that he was deeply affected by Atwater's passing and that it made him consider how vulnerable he was. In 2017, he came to the realization that if someone as powerful and well-liked as Lee Atwater could succumb to disease with such speed, then maybe Norris was also vulnerable. Fans took note of Chuck Norris's disappearance from the public eye, and he told the Washington Post that he had a very sad explanation for his retirement. He clarified that his wife Gina O'Kelly's health was his first priority at the moment. They were collaborating to spread the word about the risks connected to MRI contrast chemicals. Gina's struggle started when she had an MRI done as a preventative step to see how likely it was that she would have rheumatoid arthritis. But following the MRI, she started to have a number of upsetting symptoms. Tremors, numbness, and trouble articulating her words and ideas were among these symptoms. Her health declined to the point where she needed several ER visits and was hospitalized for several months. The medical costs incurred during her treatment surged to about $2 million. In an effort to find a cure for her illness, Gina also looked for therapies to fix her central nervous system and traveled to China for stem cell treatments. Chuck Norris remembered clearly the terror and agony he went through during this difficult time. Speaking with profound sorrow, he said, "There's nothing going on here. She's dying, right in front of me here." He made it clear that the problem included not just Gina, but also other people who had been given diagnoses related to gadolinium deposition disease, a disorder thought to be brought on by the contrast agent used in magnetic resonance imaging, MRI. Chuck and Gina first filed a lawsuit seeking $10 million in damages against the firms that manufactured the dye that was suspected of causing her illness in reaction to the difficulties they were having. But in the end, they dropped the action, and no money was exchanged. Even at 80 years old, Chuck Norris achieved some impressive things in his life despite going through a lot. A well-known Republican and vocal conservative is Chuck Norris. In addition to being a columnist for the far-right news website WorldNet Daily, he has ties to right-wing politics. In a post-release interview for the 1984 movie Missing in Action, Chuck Norris discussed his political beliefs, identifying as a conservative, ardent Reagan fan and patriot. He made it clear that his loyalty was to leaders who showed courage and a willingness to speak their thoughts, especially when those opinions were unpopular, rather than to a particular political party. He thought that President Reagan had fostered a more positive and patriotic mood in the nation throughout his administration, and he was a man with great leadership abilities. Chuck Norris made comments about the United States' role in the Middle East and the hijacking of TWA Flight 847 while filming the Delta Force in 1986. He raised worries that the United States is seen in the region as a paper tiger and that the country's inaction against terrorism may encourage further terrorist attacks globally. In support of his claim that the threat would eventually make its way to the United States, Norris cited his extensive travels as well as the disruption wrought by terrorism in Europe and the Middle East. He issued a warning that the country might become a target for terrorists because of its open-door policy and its standing as a free nation with unrestricted travel. He used Muammar Gaddafi's vow to unleash death squads in the United States as an example of the impending threat. Chuck Norris's strong conservative and patriotic views are evident in these utterances, along with his worries about national security and the U.S. place in the world, especially in light of terrorism and international relations. Chuck Norris made a noteworthy journey to Iraq in 2007 and paid a visit to American soldiers stationed there. His intention to show gratitude for the sacrifice and devotion rendered by American soldiers, as well as his unwavering support of the armed forces, was evident in this visit. Chuck Norris made waves on November 18, 2008, when he became one of the first celebrities in the entertainment business to openly support California Proposition 8, which outlaws same-sex unions. He took issue with activists for interfering with democracy, in his opinion. In addition, Norris expressed worries about what he saw as a double standard, attacking the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for its position on the matter without doing the same to African Americans, who had cast the majority of the vote in support of Proposition 8. Chuck Norris wrote a letter published by WorldNet Daily in 2009 endorsing the birther theory surrounding President Barack Obama. He questioned Obama's decision to withhold his birth certificate and pleaded with the president to put an end to the rumors by supplying the required paperwork. A 5-part investigation by Norris on how Sharia law is permeating American culture was released on WorldNet Daily in April 2011. He voiced worries about the possible introduction of Sharia law concepts into the U.S. legal system. In a June 2012 post on Aman.com, Chuck Norris accused the Obama administration of financially pressuring Jim Turley, who was then serving on the National Board of the Boy Scouts of America, to change the organization's policy prohibiting gay youth from joining during the 2012 presidential election. After first endorsing Ron Paul as the Republican nominee for president, Norris formally embraced Newt Gingrich. But Norris changed his support to Mitt Romney after Gingrich halted his campaign in May 2012. At the time, Norris had accused Romney of being a hypocrite and of attempting to purchase the Republican Party nomination in 2012. Chuck Norris and his wife, Jenna, warned evangelicals in a video message on election eve of 2012 that they should vote against President Obama because they believed it would determine the fate of the nation. The well-known actor, martial artist, and cultural icon Chuck Norris has a background of public endorsements and political activism. During Israel's elections in 2013 and 2015, Norris expressed his backing for Benjamin Netanyahu, the former Prime Minister of Israel. Prior to Mike Huckabee's withdrawal from the race later in March 2016, he openly supported Huckabee during the 2016 Republican primary. When it was revealed that Norris had endorsed Republican Texas Senator Ted Cruz and intended to attend a rally, the news grabbed national attention. But 2 days later, he made it clear that he would only support the GOP nominee when the party had chosen one. In order to support Roy Moore's candidacy for the U.S. Senate in the Alabama special election in 2017, Chuck Norris provided his endorsement. Moore was the former Chief Justice of Alabama. Like many others, this endorsement garnered a lot of media attention in 2019. Norris agreed to support Glock, a well-known gun maker. Some members of the public and his supporters criticized this action, arguing that the timing of the agreement was improper in light of the ongoing concerns over school shootings in the U.S. Some people felt that endorsing a gun maker was inconsiderate to the ongoing national discussion over gun control. Chuck Norris declared his support for the 2021 recall attempt against California's incumbent governor, Gavin Newsom, in the gubernatorial race. He openly supported Larry Elder, host of a radio talk show, to succeed Newsom. Chuck Norris founded the United Fighting Arts Federation and Kickstart Kids, two noteworthy charitable endeavors, in 1990. These organizations were founded primarily to help at-risk children and foster their sense of self-worth, especially by trying to keep them away from the pressures of drug-related activities. The main tactic was to teach these kids martial arts in the hope that it would give them confidence and give them something constructive and uplifting to work for. By directing middle school and high school students' attention in this positive direction, Norris wanted to better prepare them for creating a more bright future for themselves. Chuck Norris's dedication to these charitable pursuits went beyond his creation of these institutions. Near addition, he had a property near Navasota, Texas, where water was bottled. He was committed to financially supporting environmental groups and Kickstart Kids, as evidenced by the fact that a portion of the proceeds from the sale of this water went toward these causes. In addition, Chuck Norris was well known for his kind donations to a range of nonprofit institutions and causes. He was a supporter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the United Way, the Veterans Administration, Funds for Kids, and National Salute to Hospitalized Veterans. His dedication to these organizations demonstrated his desire to have a beneficial impact in a number of areas, such as helping children, veterans, and people in need, through donations and fundraising events. Chuck Norris's personal experiences as a former member of the U.S. Air Force in Korea became the basis of his association with the U.S. Veterans Administration as a spokesperson. He hoped to increase public awareness of the problems facing wounded veterans of war, particularly those pertaining to health care and pensions. He received the 2001 American Veteran Awards Veteran of the Year distinction in appreciation of his noteworthy accomplishments and steadfast support. Chuck Norris expanded his charitable endeavors outside of the U.S. and gave support to the Vijay Amritraj Foundation in India. The goal of this organization was to support people who had been affected by illnesses, accidents, or difficult life circumstances. Norris's kind contributions enabled the foundation to sponsor 3 initiatives: a blind school in Karnataka, a mission in Caution that provides care for mentally ill patients and adults infected with HIV/AIDS, and pediatric HIV/AIDS homes in Delhi. Chuck Norris's life, despite its hardships, is an inspiration to others because of his unwavering commitment to helping the less fortunate and his philanthropic nature. If you have any thoughts about Chuck Norris's life, feel free to leave your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this video helpful. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.